You all know Gordon Smith, the superintendent of the East Long Meadow Public Schools. He began his tenure as superintendent in July of 2010. The return to East Long Meadow was a homecoming of sorts as Mr. Smith, for Mr. Smith, because he had been an East Long Meadow High School assistant principal from 2002 to 2004. Prior to becoming superintendent in East Long Meadow, he was the principal of Ludlow High School in Ludlow for 6 years. He's been in education for 29 years. He taught English at the middle school and high school levels and also has been an assistant principal at the same levels. He's got a bachelor's degree in English literature from Middlebury College in Middlebury, Vermont, a master's degree in education from the University of Bridgeport in Bridgeport, Connecticut, master's degree in educational leadership from Bridgewater State College in Bridgewater, Mass. He is married. His wife, Marianne, is a guidance counselor. She's a competitor. She is at Longmeadow High School. They have 4 children. Paige is with an advertising firm in New York. Miles is in Somerville, Mass, in environmental consulting firm. Michaela is a graduate speech pathologist assistant, correct?
Yes.
In Westfield. And Maeve is a freshman at Trinity College. I did ask him what his hobbies were. He said it was taking care of children, bringing in children. So
sounds like it was paying
give a warm
tuition.
Rotary welcome to Gordon Smith. Should I move this out of the way?
But thank you for the opportunity to be here and share a little bit what's going on in the East Long Meadow Public Schools. I gave it somewhat of a title because it's connected to our goals. You know, what we look to do on a daily basis is support, challenge our students in their learning, but overall as they go through the grades K to 12, partner with them and really help them acquire the skills to go on and give back to society and be productive in any field in which they choose to enter. I'll just give you a quick look at our goals. We keep them in that circle because they're all connected, interconnected, and you just keep going around the circle. We're looking at the whole child. We're not just looking at academics anymore. We're looking at how do we provide opportunity pre-K to 12 so that our students are growing academically, but also socially with the 5 competencies in social and emotional learning, and that we're doing that in a culturally responsive way. So there's a lot of different practices and training that teachers and educators are going through these days to make sure that we try to make that happen. We're always looking to improve our instructional practice and figure out how we support students in this way. And then if everything is going well as you go around the circle, we're going to have our students be continuous learners and achieve. So I may have used this picture a few years back. I'm not sure if I did, but certainly our instructional environment, our educational environment has changed. We no longer want to be in rows with everybody with their hands clasped, quiet, waiting for whatever may be the next activity. We want to be involved. We want to have, to a certain extent, organized chaos and have students start to really become the advocate for their own learning. So the environment can look many different ways. The one up here, this is a makerspace at our middle school. Makerspace is where we provide different materials. Some of it could just be household materials. Others may be things that we purchase through the building supply account. We have outfitted 2 of the makerspaces with laser cutters and 3D printers. And so any teacher can take advantage of putting together some type of comprehensive project. Often what you'll see is maybe 2 different content areas getting together if they share students to put together a project, and then it truly is something that's hands-on, student-centered in terms of how they approach. This is more of sort of a quiet reading setting, if you will, somewhat relaxed setting over on the far right. And then this is one of those printers that I was talking about. The students are getting ready to utilize that 3D printer. Basically, what we're looking to do is have a somewhat flexible environment so that you continue to adapt it to the activities you're going to be going through that day. just give you some more ideas. This was a student-led discussion group with local and state representatives and politicians. You have a student audience, and it was a student moderator. That's a question being asked at that same event. These are virtual reality goggles that we utilize at the high school. And now our teachers are lesson planning, and they can take a virtual field trip to wherever they may want to go and never leave the classroom. And then that's a look at how we're utilizing, and I'll give you the history of this. A few years back, we talked about our Community Action Learning course, and I talked about how we piloted Chromebooks. Now, a few years later, we've been able to achieve distributing Chromebooks to every student, grades 2 through 12. One of the things we were looking back a few years ago was, were these going to be durable enough and give us the access that we were looking for to sustain a program like that? Just to give you an idea of what's going on, it's a lot of words. I'll try to summarize quickly for you. Basically, what we're trying to do at all grade levels is be more student-centered in what we're bringing into the classroom on a daily basis. Have it be inquiry-based. While we're doing this, try to highlight some of the social competencies that students need to grow and learn and hopefully master as they go through our grades. Just simply things like cooperative learning, working with each other, team building, some social regulation in terms of how they interact with their peers and how they interact with the teacher, but be a little bit more explicit about that as you go into an activity, such as if you're at the high school and you're moving into a lab activity, talk a little bit about what it means to work with your lab partner or partners well, what it means to team, what roles they may take on to actually run through the lab effectively. A few years back, with the help of our IT department, we established basically a Google account through the school system. Teachers already had one, but now all of our students have one. So that gives them an East Longmeadow email as well as all the Google Suite tools that they can use, whether it be Google Slides. This is on Google Slides, this presentation. Whether it be sharing a document that they can share and create with each other. They can build shared folders and contain many different documents and presentations or spreadsheets. That's all through their East Longmeadow Google account. And if the teacher creates a Google Classroom, he or she, can post assignments and materials that they need into that classroom in which all her students or his students are connected. And so all they really need is this, and then they're connected to all the materials that are within that classroom. We moved into STEAM learning. We're doing a lot more at the middle level, where STEAM is just an acronym for science, technology, engineering, art, keeping the creative element in it, and math. You saw the makerspace earlier. Actually, at our elementary level, we're starting to do some more design-based learning and look at what does it really mean to get ready to do some 3D printing. Maple Shade, and actually our principal, Michael Fredette, he meets with 3 fifth graders, up to 5 fifth graders actually, during lunchtime all throughout the year, and starts to teach some of this, and then they go over to the middle school because they're connected, the campuses are connected, and they start to, once they've done some design work, they start to use the 3D printer. We're getting into robotics on all levels. That goes all the way down to our pre-K to 2 building. And recently, within the last 2 years, East Longmeadow High School and Maple Shade were Project Lead the Way grant winners. They applied, they won, and what that means is they now have money coming through that grant to do a lot of professional development to create more STEAM learning, more science and technology type courses at the high school. Last year they put in an introductory to engineering course. This year they're starting to put in that next course that would follow. And that's all coming through that Project Lead the Way grant. Feel free if anybody wants to stop me at any moment. Okay, there you go.
So, as you know, the Rotary Club has done a third grade dictionary project for the past several years.
Yes, it's been fantastic.
Applicable anymore because of the books?
I think it's always applicable, but there may be other ways to get at those skills. And Tammy Bordeaux has contacted me, and she wants
She's
to.
not available today, so when's the meeting with the principals?
Maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit on that last screen, but I notice a lot of science and engineering and art and math, and knowing that you
Was
have
an English teacher?
undergraduate degree in English.
Right.
What about the kids, the people that are interested in that?
Right. Oh no, it's so all your
Or how
basic
many
content areas are still being taught. What we're trying to integrate in all this, even if you're in these classes, there still should be a writing component. There still should be the ability to explain what are you doing as you work through an activity with robotics, or in some of these other slides coming up, you'll see students starting to code. They still need to be able to explain it, and so there's always going to be that writing component. But say in the maker space, as an English class starts to a certain unit of study, they may connect with a social studies class and link up. Not only is there going to be a writing component, but then they can also figure out a more comprehensive project to do.
But maybe I'm,
Sorry, I may have missed the question.
but the literature and studying all of, writing and all of that.
Still going on.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's never going to go away. We're always going to be, the biggest two blocks as you start elementary education are the literacy block, which is reading and writing, and the math block. And then we build the rest of the day around those two blocks. But we tried at the elementary level to start with a consistent 90-minute literacy block in which you're doing your reading and writing, and at least 60 minutes of math, and then you build the rest of your day sort of around those. And that continues on as you go into the middle school, where then you actually have subjects, history, English, science, and so forth, and you're rotating through those. Yep.
Now, in the elementary grades, you mentioned the learning. I don't know how many other people, there's a few people in here my age, but I found, as I got older in life, that phonics that they used back in the 50s and 60s, I think phonics was an excellent source for us to use.
It still is. It is.
Develop. You still using
Yeah.
phonics?
So, and it's interesting, like, it's usually something they say about history, but in education, it's very cyclical. You get into new initiatives, but one of the things I think we all have to guard against is don't throw out everything you were doing because this is the new, high-energy approach to something. So, certainly, we're looking actually at how we do a better job integrating phonics back into what we're doing with early literacy and so forth. Yeah. Just to give you a quick idea, and I think it was 3 years ago, I met with all of you at a lunch like this, and we were talking a little bit about going one-to-one. We were talking about the Community Action Learning course at the high school. That course is still in existence, and that's where we really had a chance to look at, I think we had 2 sections at the time, so we had roughly 50 students. We outfitted them with the Chromebooks, and we wanted to see, one, how does this hold up in sort of the daily life of a student? Will they be able to utilize the Google suite of tools? How will that impact some of the things they're doing, such as if they're doing research? Because the idea behind the Community Action Learning course was, after they do some pre-work, they're going to identify some type of community issue, whether it be impacting East Long Meadow or Western Massachusetts, or a larger, the whole state, country, whatever it might be. I suppose we were talking about coronavirus earlier. I suppose that might be one that they could start to look at and figure out how they can help start to team and problem solve around certain issues that are impacting the community. And so we wanted those students, as we started that course, to be mobile, be able to get out into the community, get into a meeting with different community members, be able to take notes, put together their notes, share with maybe someone in the class that they're partnering with, all through not only the use of the Chromebook, but through the use of the Google tools in their Google Suite. What we noticed at the end of the 2 years is that these were very durable, they were holding up, and much less expensive than trying to outfit everybody with a Mac. There are certain things that Macs can do that Chromebooks right now cannot do, but in terms of sort of the learning that we wanted to get out of these machines and support with these machines was happening. So really, that was the culmination. This year is the culmination of about 6 years of research in looking at how have districts done this, where they have gone to a one-to-one situation where they're distributing computers to students, and the students basically have this on a daily basis, or just like you would used to bring a textbook and a notebook, you're bringing this. It needs to be charged, needs to be at the ready to use in all different classes. Huge thank you to our IT department. I mean, there are so many different groups that supported us in getting there through the 6 years, but without our IT department, Ryan Quimby and his crew, we never would have gotten this off the ground. Because not only did they help us do the research and then start to plan with school committee and town council to look at funding, specifically capital budget in terms of finishing off purchasing to make it happen, but then once it was approved at all those different meetings, this past summer, we not only did an incredible amount of purchasing, but at the end of August, we distributed 1,425 Chromebooks, first to the middle school and then the high school, and then our elementary schools, over the course of September, we outfitted them with another 1,100 Chromebooks. And they are now being utilized on a daily basis throughout all our schools. I'll see if these work. Just give you an idea. Remember I talked about partnering. So this is a professional development, and these are some of our teachers going through a coding game. And so first they need to figure out how would they utilize the coding game, how would they team, and then use it in their classroom. And so we were giving about a week ago, we were giving the school committee some insight into some of the new things we're doing. So they're learning the game, and then they will need to, throughout the year, figure out how would I utilize this in a second grade classroom. And what it is getting at is it's starting to build the basic or first steps of coding. This is a similar one at another school. So we talk about 5 minutes. Okay. Talk about changes that are happening. This is a little bit more sort of student-centered professional development for our staff. They don't have someone such as me talking at them. They're getting involved. They're figuring out how can I utilize these tools? How might it help my lesson planning? And then as the students get into...
Tilt the screen and move the girl.
So this student's explaining what code he put in to make this happen on the iPad.
And try and get the treasure chest.
He puts them in the right order. He can get the ball and the treasure chest and the girl to work like he wants them to work. So what he's explaining there, the person in the background, that was Michael Fredette, the principal of Mapleshade.
It hides, it waits 1 second, and then it appears in a different spot and shows itself.
Just to give you a quick idea what some of the software we've put on here to not only utilize in the classroom, but also utilize at home. And so over the last break, Heather Brown, who's our curriculum director, sent out a message to all families, here are some of the things they can do since these machines are in the home now with their students to continue to do work on iReady handles and can individualize some things around literacy, reading, and math. ST Math, obviously similar to the name as it says, is dealing with math, but just different tools that we're using to help support our students as they go through their learning. But it's not all about screen time. We're still, just as we were talking about, doing some of the basics, the essentials, but it may be in a different way. This, I believe, is one of our science teachers, and she's utilizing the hallway space to deal with some measuring and have some discussion around the activity that they're doing. Here's one of the coding games that we talked about. I believe this is a 6th grade classroom. This over here is a middle school classroom, and they're also utilizing the hallway to do some hands-on activities. And then this is sort of a more traditional setting, but the teacher does have a software product to do a review, and she's doing Jeopardy. So it's not incredibly 21st century, but the students love to have a Jeopardy game to do their review for whatever unit test might be coming. Just some more pictures of sort of the different things that are going on. You know, the one-to-one, students have their computers and use them when the activity is structured around that. Here's a look at robotics. On the far right over here, DLCS, that's another acronym for us, but it's the Digital Literacy and Computer Standards that run pre-K through 12. And so they're starting to discuss, you know, what they're utilizing, how they're mastering certain standards with the use of the Chromebook and some of the things that they do in their classrooms. And then you have 2 makerspace pictures here on the bottom. So all of this makes us excited for the future, and I think one of the reasons why Bill invited me today, other than the incredible charismatic speech that I'm giving you, was because we bumped into each other at the town hall, and I was just coming from the town manager's office where I had started to talk about the fact that you know, all of this makes us excited for the future, but over the last 6 years, we've been putting into the Mass School Building Authority to see if we can be invited into their pipeline for a possible comprehensive project at East Long Meadow High School. So this past December, we were finally invited in. We're in what they call the eligibility period. And what that means is that it's about a 270-day period. Ours officially starts on June 1st and will run through February 26th. During that time, we have to meet their 8 requirements in order to keep moving forward and stay within the MSBA pipeline. And so these are things such as one of the requirements is, excuse me, I need to update them on the educational programming that's happening specifically here for the high school, but in the district, and how a comprehensive project would push that forward. Where do we think we're going in the future? So it's pretty exciting knowing sort of where we've been through this year, what a building, how it could support the activities that we're doing, and maybe even give us the opportunity to get into activities that we're not able to do right now. The final piece of those 8 requirements is working with the town to fund what they call a feasibility study. And that would start to look at, so what project is correct for the challenges that East Long Meadow High School as a 60-year-old building is presenting. And it would look at, so is that a comprehensive renovation, or is that a new building? And so they would actually do the engineering and the architectural work to start to look at that, excuse me, to problem solve and come up with real costs as to which or how much one project over the other would cost, but give the information so that then we could start to discuss what is right for East Long Meadow with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Getting into this process enables the town to then partner with the MSBA and have a lot of this work or cost reimbursed. We're right now finishing up 2 accelerated repair projects at Meadowbrook. For that work, we receive 55% reimbursement, and this is key, for all eligible costs. In some cases, there are costs that the Mass School Building Authority does not deem eligible. But if it's a cost that they deem eligible, we receive 55% reimbursement on that, which makes it much more feasible to do a project of this scale. And that's actually the end of my presentation.
Anybody have any questions?
Brian, is this, will these Chromebooks now mean that you are less reliant on textbooks?
We're less reliant, we haven't abandoned textbooks, but yes, we're less reliant. What we've started to go to is have more classroom sets, and the textbook publishers are not in any way not strategic about where they're going. So if we start to utilize more online and other resources, they're looking to get into that and augment what may have been in a textbook, but we're paying for that licensure as well. So it's just shifting sort of where they're putting their resources, and we're trying to figure out what's going to be the best to support what we're doing pre-K through 12.
Well, that sort of translates into if they can't sell as many textbooks, they're going to nail you online.
Absolutely, yeah. When it started to go where they would supplement, it used to be maybe it was a CD or a DVD, and now it's a full website. But in the beginning, you used to get those things for free if you purchased a certain amount of textbooks. Yep. Now you're getting charged for everything. Yes, sir.
If MCAS testing is still around,
It is.
how does all this impact that? I mean,
So that's a great question.
These enhanced activities
Right.
takes away from teaching.
So the interesting thing is Massachusetts it has, over the years, forced all school systems to take the MCAS online. So we knew that was coming, and that's when, 3-4 years ago, as we were starting to experiment more with Chromebooks, we knew that we had to have our students experience how do they utilize this as a tool in their learning on a daily basis so that when they hit the MCAS assessment, it wasn't a shock. It wasn't, oh, wait, how do I do this exam on the Chromebook? So that's mandated now. All our students that are testing or taking the MCAS, which actually starts up this month, they do it on the Chromebook.
A final token of our appreciation, as you all know, and Gordon does know also, because he's been here before, Gordon has chosen the book, The Slime Book, by Dorling Kindersley, Inc. This is a card that gives you the name of the book, and we hope that you will use this in a bookmark for your, as you're reading. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, our final item of the day is the four-way test. If you all please rise. And Allie, would you like to lead us in the four-way test?
I would. The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First,
is it true?
second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third,
Will build goodwill and better friendships?
fourth,
Will it be beneficial to all?